Welcome, everyone, to Easy History Podcast. Today, we're going back in time to explore one of history's most influential empires.
The Roman Empire.
Yeah, the Roman
That's
Empire.
a story that spans centuries.
It's true.
Filled with military triumphs,
Incredible innovations.
political intrigue.
And ultimately, a legacy that continues to shape our world today. But before we get to the gladiators
Right.
and emperors, let's set the stove. What was going on in the Italian peninsula before Rome was even a twinkle in Romulus and Remus's eyes?
You might be surprised to learn
Okay.
that the area was a vibrant mix of cultures.
Oh, wow.
We're talking about groups like the Villanovans,
Okay.
the Etruscans, Greeks, and even Celts.
Wow, imagine the cultural exchange
Yeah.
and the clash of ideas that must have been happening.
Absolutely.
It's fascinating to think about. And speaking of fascinating, I read about this incredibly well-preserved
Oh, yeah.
Iceman found in the Alps.
Yeah.
His clothing and tools
Right.
give us a glimpse into life in that era.
It really does.
It really highlights how much we can learn from the past.
Absolutely. And of all these groups, the Etruscans left a particularly significant mark
Okay.
on early Roman culture. They were known for their advanced city planning, beautiful craftsmanship, and a very distinctive architectural feature, the arch.
You know those curved structures that are still used in architecture today?
Exactly.
It's amazing to think they were already using this technology back then. But okay, let's get back to Rome.
Okay.
We have all these different groups in Italy.
Right.
And then, boom, Rome emerges as this dominant power. How did that happen?
Well, it's a combination of factors.
Mm-hmm.
The legendary story, of course, is the founding of Rome by the twin brothers Romulus and Remus in 753 BC.
But legend aside,
Right.
Rome's location played a crucial role.
Yeah, it did.
So geography was destiny.
In a way, yes.
Okay.
Situated on the Tiber River, Rome had access to the sea for trade,
Yeah.
and the surrounding hills provided natural defenses. This made it a strategic location, perfectly positioned for growth. The early Romans, who started as farmers and shepherds,
Okay.
were able to capitalize on these advantages.
So they had a good spot and a bit of luck.
Right.
But what about their government? How did they go from a small settlement to a mighty empire?
It's a fascinating evolution. Rome's early history was marked by a period of monarchy,
Okay.
heavily influenced by the Etruscans. In fact, we see the Etruscan influence in things like the Cloaca Maxima,
What's that?
Rome's impressive sewer system.
A sewer system.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought of that as a highlight.
It might not sound glamorous,
No.
but a well-functioning sewer system was essential for public health and sanitation.
Right.
It speaks to the Romans' practicality and their focus on infrastructure, but you're right, the monarchy wasn't meant to last.
This is where we get to the Roman Republic.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
A system of government that has had a lasting impact on Western civilization.
Absolutely.
I've always been curious about the concept of Roman citizenship. What made it so unique?
Roman citizenship was much more than just living in Rome. It came with specific rights and responsibilities.
Uh-huh.
Citizens could vote, hold office, and serve in the military.
Right.
But they were also expected to pay taxes and obey the law. This idea of citizenship as both a privilege and a duty
Yeah.
is something that resonates with many modern democracies.
It's like they were laying the groundwork for civic engagement as we know it.
Right.
But Rome wasn't content with just governing itself.
No, they were not.
Right. They had their sights set on expansion.
Exactly.
And this is where the Roman military machine really comes into play. Rome began to assert its dominance throughout the Italian peninsula,
Right.
engaging in a series of conflicts like the Samnite Wars,
Yeah,
which showcased their growing military prowess.
exactly.
This is where we get to those legendary Roman legions.
Yes.
Right. What made them such an unstoppable force?
The Roman legion was a masterpiece of organization
Uh-huh.
and discipline.
Okay.
They weren't just a mass of soldiers.
Right.
They were a highly structured fighting force
Right.
with a clear hierarchy,
Okay.
specialized roles for different types of soldiers,
Yeah.
and an emphasis on rigorous training
Mm-hmm.
and strategic thinking. They also adopted new technologies like siege weapons,
Right.
which gave them an edge in battle.
So it wasn't just brute strength.
No.
It was strategy and organization. They were like a well-oiled military machine.
They were.
But even the mighty Roman legions faced some formidable opponents.
They did.
And this brings us to one of the most dramatic chapters in Roman history,
Okay.
the Punic Wars. These were a series of epic clashes against Carthage,
Right.
a powerful empire based in North Africa.
Exactly.
And this is where the name Hannibal comes in, right? I remember learning about him in school,
Oh, yeah.
crossing the Alps with elephants.
Hannibal Barca was a brilliant Carthaginian general who devised one of the most daring military campaigns in history. His decision to cross the Alps
Wow.
With war elephants no less,
Right.
to attack Rome directly
Yeah.
is a testament to his strategic genius and his willingness to take risks.
It's mind-boggling to think about the logistics of moving an army,
Right.
let alone elephants, over those treacherous mountains.
I know.
He must have really shaken things up in Rome.
He certainly did.
Yeah.
Hannibal inflicted a series of early defeats on the Romans.
Oh, wow.
Most notably at the Battle of Cannae.
Okay.
But ultimately, Rome's resilience, strategic planning, and superior resources led to their victory in the Second Punic War.
Even in defeat, Hannibal's campaign is one for the history books. But what was the lasting impact of these Punic Wars on Rome?
The Punic Wars were a defining moment for Rome.
Okay.
Not only did they solidify Roman dominance in the Western Mediterranean,
Uh-huh.
but they also forced the Romans to adapt their military strategies, particularly their naval capabilities. Perhaps even more importantly,
Okay.
the wars exposed internal tensions and vulnerabilities within the Republic that would eventually lead to its downfall.
It's interesting how a period of external conflict can sometimes reveal cracks in the foundation of a society.
Yeah,
And speaking of cracks,
right.
this is where we see the Roman Republic begin to unravel.
Exactly. The late Republic was a period of increasing instability.
Uh-huh.
Powerful generals like Julius Caesar
Oh, yeah.
were gaining immense influence.
Right.
Social unrest was growing.
Okay.
And the political system was struggling to maintain order.
And then, of course, there's the infamous crossing of the Rubicon,
Yes.
where Caesar essentially declares war on the Roman Senate. What a pivotal moment in history.
It was a turning point that marked the end of the Republic and the beginning of Caesar's dictatorship.
Right.
But as we know, Caesar's reign was short-lived.
And it's his adopted son,
Right.
Octavian, who steps onto the stage,
Yeah.
eventually becoming the first emperor of Rome, Augustus. What a legacy.
Augustus was an incredibly astute politician.
Uh-huh.
And a master of propaganda. He consolidated his power, ushering in a period of peace and prosperity known as the Pax Romana.
Okay.
He launched ambitious building projects,
Okay.
reformed the legal system, and patronized the arts,
Right.
effectively laying the foundation for what we now consider the Roman Empire.
It's amazing to think that this period of Roman history,
Yeah.
from the birth of the Republic to the rise of the empire,
Right.
all happened within a few centuries.
It was a time of profound transformation and upheaval.
Right.
But it also laid the groundwork for one of history's most enduring legacies.
Uh-huh.
We still see the influence of Roman law, language, architecture, and political thought all around us.
It makes you wonder, what was life actually like during the peak of Roman power? Let's take a deeper look at what it was like to live in this vast empire.
Let's imagine ourselves strolling through the bustling streets of Rome
Okay.
at the height of the empire.
I'm picturing grand marble buildings,
Right.
bustling marketplaces, and those iconic Roman baths.
Exactly. Roman cities were designed for both practicality and grandeur.
Okay.
Think about the impressive aqueducts
Right.
that brought fresh water from miles away.
Oh, wow.
The network of roads connecting the vast empire.
Yeah.
And of course, those magnificent public baths.
The baths weren't just about hygiene, though.
Right.
They were a social hub.
Absolutely. The baths were a place to relax, exercise, socialize,
Yeah.
and even conduct business. It's a testament to the Roman emphasis on communal life and leisure.
And speaking of leisure,
Right.
what about entertainment? I've always been fascinated by the gladiatorial games
Oh, yeah.
and chariot races.
Well, you've come to the right empire. The Romans knew how to put on a spectacle.
Yeah.
The Colosseum,
Uh-huh.
a massive amphitheater that could hold tens of thousands of spectators,
Wow.
was the stage for epic gladiatorial combats and thrilling chariot races. These events were incredibly popular
Right.
and a major part of Roman culture.
I can only imagine the roar of the crowd as the gladiators entered the arena.
Yeah,
It must have been quite a sight to behold. But beyond the grandeur of the cities
right.
and the thrill of the games,
Yeah.
what can you tell us about the average Roman's daily life?
Life in the Roman Empire, like any society, was diverse.
Okay.
You had wealthy elites living in luxurious villas,
Uh-huh.
while the majority of the population resided in more modest dwellings,
Right.
including those multi-story apartment buildings called insulae.
I remember you mentioning those earlier.
Yeah,
They didn't sound particularly safe.
they could be quite hazardous,
Yeah.
built with wood and often lacking proper sanitation.
Right.
Insulae were susceptible to fires and disease. It's a reminder that even in a powerful empire,
Yeah.
there were significant social and economic disparities.
It's interesting how those details of daily life could reveal so much about a society.
It is.
What about food and fashion? Did all Romans wear togas
Well,
and feast on grapes and olives?
the toga was indeed a symbol of Roman citizenship. but
Right.
it was primarily worn for formal occasions.
Okay.
Everyday clothing was more practical.
Hmm.
Think tunics for men
Okay.
and stolas, long flowing dresses
Right.
for women.
So no togas for running errands.
Probably not.
Makes sense. What about food? Was there a typical Roman diet?
The Roman diet was largely Mediterranean,
Okay.
focusing on fresh fruits, vegetables, grains,
Yeah.
and olive oil.
Right.
Bread was a staple food.
Makes sense.
And they also enjoyed a variety of meats, cheeses, and fish.
Okay.
Oh, and I can't forget to mention garum.
Garum. That sounds vaguely familiar.
It was a fermented fish sauce
Oh.
that was used as a condiment. Think of it as the Roman version of ketchup,
Okay.
though it probably had a much stronger flavor.
I'll take your word for it. I think I'll stick with ketchup. But, when we think about the Roman Empire, we tend to focus on its military might and political power.
Yeah.
It's easy to forget that it was also a complex society
It was.
with its own unique culture, traditions, and way of life.
You're absolutely right.
Understanding those aspects of daily life helps us to see the Roman Empire not just as a historical entity,
Right.
but as a collection of individuals,
Yeah.
each with their own stories and experiences.
Exactly. And even the greatest empires face challenges.
Right?
We know that Rome eventually fell.
Yeah.
What were some of the factors that led to its decline?
Well, I was going to ask you that. It seems like it happened pretty quickly, but
The decline of the Roman Empire is a complex topic,
okay.
with many contributing factors. It wasn't a sudden collapse,
Mm-hmm.
but rather a slow process of weakening and fragmentation
Okay.
that occurred over several centuries.
So it wasn't just one barbarian invasion that brought down the empire.
No, it was much more nuanced than that.
Okay.
We see a combination of internal and external pressures
Okay.
that gradually eroded Roman power.
Uh-huh.
One key factor was economic instability. The empire faced soaring inflation,
Oh, wow.
a debasement of its currency, and increasing difficulty in maintaining its vast military and infrastructure.
It sounds like the empire was overstretching its resources.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
They were struggling to manage such a vast territory and population.
And then there's the political instability.
Yes.
I remember reading about emperors being assassinated left and right.
The later Roman Empire was plagued by political turmoil.
Yeah.
There was a constant struggle for power,
Right.
with emperors often meeting untimely ends.
Yeah.
This lack of stable leadership made it difficult to address the growing challenges facing the empire.
So we have economic woes,
Right.
political chaos,
Uh-huh. And then,
of course, the barbarians at the gates.
yes, the pressure from barbarian tribes along the empire's borders was a constant threat.
Uh-huh.
And as Rome weakened internally, it became increasingly difficult to defend its frontiers.
We talked about Diocletian and Constantine
Yes.
trying to implement reforms to stabilize the empire. Did their efforts have any lasting impact?
They certainly tried to address the growing crisis. Diocletian's division of the empire into a tetrarchy,
Right.
with 4 co-emperors,
Right.
was an attempt to improve administrative efficiency and control,
Okay.
and Constantine's decision to move the capital to Constantinople,
Right.
establishing the Eastern Roman Empire,
Uh-huh.
acknowledged the growing importance of the East and shifted the center of power.
So in a way, these reforms were acknowledging that the empire as it once was no longer sustainable.
Precisely. They were attempts to adapt to a changing world and preserve Roman power,
Yeah.
but despite their efforts,
Yeah.
the Western Roman Empire continued to weaken.
And ultimately, it couldn't withstand the combination of internal and external pressures.
Right.
Is there a specific event that marks the fall of the Western Roman Empire?
Historians often point to the year 476 AD,
Okay.
when the last Roman emperor in the West, Romulus Augustus,
Wow, what a name.
was deposed by a barbarian general named Odoacer. This event is often seen as the symbolic end of the Western Roman Empire.
What a fascinating, albeit somewhat tragic, end to a civilization that had once been so dominant.
Right.
But even though the Western Roman Empire fell, its legacy lived on, right?
Absolutely. The Roman Empire left an indelible mark on Western civilization. Its influence can be seen in our languages,
Right.
legal systems, political structures, art, architecture,
Right.
and even our concepts of citizenship and democracy.
It's a reminder that even though empires rise and fall, their ideas and innovations can continue to shape the world for centuries to come.
It's remarkable how much of what we consider modern has roots in ancient Rome. Take, for example, the concept of a republic itself.
You're right. We often take these ideas for granted, but they have a long and complex history. I think that's what's so fascinating about studying history. It helps us understand where we come from and how the world has been shaped by the past.
Exactly. And the Roman Empire, despite its eventual fall, left a legacy that is still felt today. Think about Roman law, for instance. Many of its principles are still foundational to legal systems around the world.
It's incredible to think about how those legal concepts developed centuries ago are still relevant today. It speaks to the enduring power of ideas.
And it's not just law. Roman engineering feats, like their aqueducts and roads, were marvels of their time and continue to inspire awe today. Their innovations in concrete, for example, allowed them to build structures that have stood the test of time.
I remember seeing the Pantheon in Rome and being blown away by its massive dome. It's a testament to the skill and ingenuity of Roman engineers. But beyond these practical innovations, what about their contributions to art and culture?
Roman art and literature were heavily influenced by Greek traditions, but they also developed their own unique styles and themes. Their sculptures, mosaics, and frescoes depict scenes from mythology, daily life, and historical events. And Roman writers like Virgil and Ovid produced works of poetry and prose that are still studied and admired today.
It's a reminder that the Roman Empire wasn't just a military and political powerhouse. It was a center of cultural and intellectual innovation. But even with all its achievements, the empire eventually crumbled. What can we learn from Rome's rise and fall?
I think one of the key takeaways is that even the most powerful empires are not invincible. They are susceptible to both internal and external pressures, and their success often hinges on a delicate balance of factors: economic stability, effective leadership, social cohesion, and the ability to adapt to change.
It's a cautionary tale, but also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Even in the face of decline, the Romans left behind a legacy that continues to inspire and influence us. Their story is a reminder that history is not just a collection of facts and dates. It's a tapestry woven from the triumphs and failures, the innovations and traditions, and the enduring spirit of those who came before us.
Well said. And as we wrap up our dive into the Roman Empire, I think it's important to remember that history is not just something we study, it's a conversation that continues to unfold. There's always more to learn, more perspectives to consider, and more connections to make.
So to our listener, we encourage you to continue exploring the fascinating world of ancient Rome. Dig deeper into the stories we've discussed, seek out new sources of information, and draw your own conclusions. After all, that's what makes history so engaging. It's an ongoing journey of discovery.
And who knows, maybe you'll uncover something that changes our understanding of this remarkable civilization.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey through time. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into history. Until then, keep exploring and stay curious.